So recently, guys, I've been playing Watch Dogs. Yes, I'm a little bit out of tune, out of date. I know it came out years ago, but I finally got a chance to play Watch Dogs, and such a brilliant game, such a brilliant storyline. If you haven't played it, then play it. Just a word of advice, by the way, to my favorite to my fellow streamers. If you do want to play it, don't play it as a streamable game. There are segments in it that are unstreamable, let's say. Certainly things that could get you demonetized, banned a lot, because there are a couple of edgy subjects in there. Is probably the best way of putting it. But it is a brilliant, gritty, emotional story, and I cannot recommend the story enough. Now, because I enjoyed Watch Dogs, yesterday, for the first time, I started playing Watch Dogs 2. And there was a character in the story that I don't know what to make of them. I don't know what to feel about them. I don't know what to think about them. Now, when most people say I don't know what to think about them, what to feel about them, they normally mean I feel negatively about it, but don't really want to say forthright. I am genuinely on the fence about this character and when they were created, and sort of the elements of them. The character I'm talking about is this guy. This guy's name is Josh. Josh in Watch Dogs 2 is autistic. There's no has autistic vibes about it. They say from the outset that he has autistic. He is autistic. Well, they say he has autism, but autistic. Okay. Now, here's the thing. The first real interaction that he had made me feel a bit uncomfortable, if I'm being honest. Now, I do know, firstly, this was a game that was made 5 years ago, and a lot has changed in 5 years. I also know that from reading blogs about Josh, this character, is that later on in the game, things do improve a little bit. But the particular scene that I'm talking about is a bit where he ends up being obsessed over, hung on to this one comment, and clearly does it. And it almost, I don't know the vibe it gives over, but it's a very weird vibe. And weird is probably where I'm going here as to what is the bit that makes me feel a little bit not sure about Josh and the way his character has been created. Because, in a sense, Josh in Watch Dogs 2 reminds me of another character. Now, can people remember this character? This character was Jesse from the Fast and Furious franchise. Again, Jesse was neurodivergent in the Fast and Furious crew. And he was, again, cast in that mold. Now, here's the thing. When I'm talking here about autistic and ADHD characters, I'm not talking about necessarily those main characters, the star characters, where they are they think things in a different way, but they come up with a genius idea regularly. You know, those Patrick Janes from The Mentalist, ones like Abby from NCIS. I'm not talking about those characters. I'm talking about, and the term I can find to best use it are lovable weirdos. They feel like support characters. They feel like they're the people that are there almost to be in the team, and but almost feel like, um what's the best way of putting it? Almost feel like people are purposely got sympathy for them, and it's almost like a pity friend. Do you know what I mean? Perhaps you've had that feeling before of being a pity friend, and if you have, by the way, I feel for you, fellows in that. And this is the bit that I struggle with, because in Hollywood, in video game stories, in all this sort of thing, should lovable weirdos still exist in these stories? Should the focus, should there still be this place for lovable weirdos? Now, I can think of a couple of pros. I can think of a couple of cons, and weirdly, they sort of intertwine with each other. Let me think of one pro as an example, and then I'll show you the con that intertwines with it. So here's a pro: relatable characters. Brilliant. Everyone wants a relatable character, someone they can relate to, and particularly if it's someone that is diagnosed with the thing that you have, then all the more for it, right? You know, for maybe for people with Tourette's, it is BT from Hunger Games. Is it BT? You know the character I mean. If I might have got it wrong. For just for that sort of vibe, where you feel like you relate to them. Fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. I have a character I can relate to. But how about this as a little bit of a devil's advocate, let's say? Do you really want to be reminded that you might be a pity friend? That's a relatable thing. But do you really want it? Is it something you want? Is it something you want to be reminded that you might be a friend in a friendship group out of pity? I'm pretty sure none of us would if we are unfortunate enough to be in that position. It's not a comfortable feeling. And certainly the first interaction that Jesse really has, where not Jesse, that Josh really has in Watch Dogs, when he is chatting with the crew and gets stuck on a word, is that 2 minutes later, when the conversation has gone through two different detours, he's still vocally talking about it. And maybe this is me being pessimistic, but I could sense some sort of awkwardness, some nervousness, like, how do we react to this? Because we're now off on another tangent, we're off on another level. Same with Jesse as well. You could see that socially he was really struggling. How much of that was out of pity? And here's the thing: as this might not exist, but as neurodivergent folk, we become hyper aware of that. Particularly if we are people that get into a lot of social settings and try and work it out, is that when we struggle, we notice it based on other people's reactions. Yes, we don't read body language, but my goodness me, can we sense an awkward atmosphere? And I sensed it in this. So there is a situation where there is a pro and there is a con. How about another pro? The diversity, the inclusivity. It's what we always talk about: representation and being able to open things up. Brilliant, fantastic. Of course, we want representation. We want to see more characters of diverse backgrounds in their roles. But here's a con: is there really the lovable weirdo thing? Is that really what is the personification of those that are autistic? Is that the lovable weirdo? Is that really the personification of those with ADHD? Now, we could talk about these celebrities that have been spoken about on other videos that are neurodivergent, the Michelle Rodriguez's of the world, the Mel Sykes, um, Alan Gardner, Fern Brady most recently as well. They aren't lovable weirdo characters. They are strong individuals. They are people who are very, very fixed in mind, very strong willed people. They are main characters. They are not side characters, goofy characters, lovable weirdos. They aren't. But let's take it on another level. Most of you guys watch streams. Think about your streamers that you watch that are autistic, that have ADHD, that have Tourette's. Are they really lovable weirdos? No. They're good, strong allies, companions, friends because of their strong personalities. There's no, yes, there's the lovable side of things, but there's no real weird side of it. Is that relatability? Is that true um, appropriation? Is that true representation? One of the things that's mentioned in Watch Dogs, the hackers, by the way, is no one asked the hackers when making a film about hackers. And this is almost the irony that I'm talking about here. Who is imagining these individuals that are autistic or have ADHD? Are they individuals with ADHD? Are there individuals that are autistic? I'd be pushing towards the no category there. Because, well, not everyone with ADHD is the same. Not everyone that's autistic is the same. We want someone where we can look at them and we can go, they're a genius, or they're amazing, they're this, they're that, they're so kind, they're everything like that, before we've even started to consider whether they're autistic or have ADHD. See, for me, the ideal scenario is if there is a main character in, let's say, Watch Dogs or Fast and Furious, right? Where they do amazingly. They are considered one of the main characters. They are considered one of the main focal points that is pushing towards the goal or that the team are trying to get really well. And then right at the end, you find out, oh, by the way, they're autistic. Or, by the way, they have ADHD. Because then this individual that you enjoyed playing as, playing with, watching, listening to, has now become a role model. Think about the reaction that perhaps you had when you found out that Michelle Rodriguez, aka Letty from Fast and Furious, had ADHD, has ADHD. How amazing it was that such a strong, independent woman who was a focal point of Fast and Furious for 4 movies that had a good, sassy vibe to her, has ADHD. That's what we want to see in films. Well, that's certainly what I would want to see in films. That's certainly what I would want to see in video games. We all talk about lore and maybe a character that you play alongside in a video game where they end up being a strong ally, someone that you really enjoy coming out with, and they come out with good quirks that are sassy and quick-witted and everything like that, and then you pick up some lore saying, oh, by the way, they're autistic. By the way, they have ADHD. Could we steer towards that? Now, I'm going to follow this up by saying I'm not saying that Watch Dogs 2 is a bad game. I'm not saying that Fast and Furious is a bad franchise. In fact, both of them are top quality franchises. I don't care what anyone says. I enjoy watching Fast and Furious, even if it stopped becoming really a car racing film. They are still brilliant franchises. And let's not forget, right? We are talking about a game that was made 5 years ago, a film that was made, goodness me, nearly 20 years ago, probably more than 20 years ago now. And the fact that they took that step to push for representation is amazing. Going forward, let's see if we can do even better. Hollywood probably aren't watching this stream. Video game companies probably aren't even watching this stream. But if you are, please could we have a main character, an enjoyable main character, someone who ends up being the second hero, who ends up being neurodivergent.